Welcome to the Zesty Ginger Podcast. We are Megan and Dr. Alex. We are here for transformation. Yours, ours, and the collective. Personal and professional for practitioners. But not just any transformation. Compassionate transformation. Because between the two of us, we have seemed to have done things the painful way. Let our pitfalls become your stepping stones. We aren't afraid to share our raw and vulnerable truths in order to help you transform your thinking, your body, your heart, and your soul. Combining 15 years of functional medicine with brain-based habit change to lead you to the best life possible in a compassionate way. Compassion, yes, yet plan to roll up your sleeves. Transformation requires your participation. And a quick reminder, this information is not meant to diagnose, manage, or treat disease. Always consult with your doctor, not this doctor, before making changes. Now let's get into the episode. Hi there, this is Dr. Alex here with you. I hope you're having a magical day or evening wherever you are in the world. Today we have a very special podcast episode. This is a live seat coaching call that we did on Instagram with our friend Tessa. Tessa came to one of our Coaches Connect calls on dealing with difficult clients and asked really insightful, amazing questions and was nice enough to volunteer to come be on a hot seat. So we are sharing that here. So her and I had a really interesting conversation today. It was all about knowing how to figure out if working with someone's the right decision. There's a lot of times in business and leadership and coaching, whether we are working with a client or another business or another coach or a mentor, where understanding how you feel about something and what's driving your decision to work with someone or not is super key. Basically, there's a lot of confusion that can happen because essentially when we are leaders, we are often put in situations where we have to, from an unknown, make a decision. So if we are not equipped to understand and assess what each of our four bodies are saying, if we have not yet developed more of that intuitive and emotional compass and understanding how our body and mind communicates with us, knowing what patterns they are, what sequence they go in for you. We dig into a lot of stuff that's really helpful for unpacking all of this on the call with Tessa. And to be honest, it's an amazing discussion to have because you can hear how that type of resource thinking can be applied to everything. And that's essentially what I'm working towards with myself and with all clients, is that you should have systems that work for you in all situations, or you will inevitably get caught with your pants down in some situation and then be like, I don't know what to do. Part of being an empowered adult is not leaving those situations to come up and being okay with that. Right? Just saying, I'm actually not okay with leaving myself unattended. I'm not going to leave myself confused, lost, stuck, frustrated. I'm going to make sure that I have resources that cover all of those scenarios. That way, when it comes up and I do feel that way, the hardest part is going to be remembering to use them, but it's not going to be remembering to use them and develop them at the time when you need it and you're already struggling. Right? So when we do this kind of work, and it was so amazing that Tessa agreed to come on, and because she didn't have to do that, but this is what I mean. We can let life beat us up and then seek resources like this, or we can just say today is a regular Monday and I'm going to go ahead and do that for no other reason than I love myself and I care about myself and I'm committed to getting the results that I say I want in life. Right, so it comes from deep love for ourselves, deep care, that we choose to live like this and choose to think differently about our life, our approach to life, and how we seek things like answering questions and mentorship and all of those good things that can help so very much along the journey. So have fun listening to the call. come to the next Coaches Connect. If you go to the show notes, it's zestyginger.com/Coaches Connect. We are putting them on regularly each month with some exceptions, but for the most part, come on by. There are amazing, powerful, insightful women that come to these calls, and that is the whole point, to mingle and get to know one another better, help each other out, and make this world a better place to live. So sending you lots of love. I'm kicking it on over to the episode, and I'll catch you on the next one. Hello, everybody. So recently, Tessa joined us for one of our Coaches Connect calls. So this is a monthly free meetup for coaches, practitioners, and leaders of all different kinds to come meet one another, connect, meet like-minded folks, and also learn new strategies, tips. Megan and I have been at this for a decade together, and before that individually, and so we have over tens and thousands and thousands and thousands of women and humans that we have worked with. We have really gotten to see a lot, and so we do these monthly meetups because there's so many places where entrepreneurs and new coaches and even coaches who have been at this a while get stuck, whether it's things like refunds or dealing with difficult clients was our last one, or tomorrow's is actually about how you've been pushing away money instead of manifesting it or creating it, instead of building wealth consciousness. There are things that people do that keep it tucked away instead. So come on over every week in the title itself. So that is zestyginger.com/Coaches Connect. All right. Hi, Tessa.
Hi. How
Hello.
are you, Dr. Alex?
Oh, I am wonderful. How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Perfect. Thank you so much for being willing to come on and do some live coaching with me.
Of course. Thanks for the invite.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you joined us, like I said, you joined us on our last Coaches Connect, which was about dealing with difficult clients. And we got into all sorts of yummy stuff. Now, you'll find, those of you listening along and listening after, you'll find a portion of that call on our podcast. So check that out if you missed it. But today, Tessa and I are going to chat because we're going to basically build and answer whatever questions you got. We did not, now I don't know what Tessa's going to ask me, right? We don't plan. And that's because really as coaches and leaders and practitioners, the best place to be is equipped to deal with whatever people throw at you. Right. So when we create resources for ourselves that are in terms of empowerment, wholeness, healing, strength, all of these things then create the scenario where we get to more powerful. Okay, so we're going to do this coaching like we do all of our calls. And essentially when we do Q&As, we are always helping people also formulate their question, right? And that is, it matters how we ask things, because when we look for help from someone, when we communicate efficiently and clearly, then they can help us more powerfully. So the way that we like to do that is ask the question up front, the main question that you got, and then a couple sentence backstory, and then that'll be it. So it's a lot shorter than most people think. And that's because we see and we're looking at patterns that play out across a lot of humans. So a lot of times that is the starting point that we all need. And then after that, I will ask clarifying questions and dig into anything else that needs to be explored. Does that sound good, Tessa?
That sounds great.
Amazing. Okay, so hit me with your question and then a couple sentences for the backstory.
Okay, great. So my question is, I am a throw myself in, shiny objects, yes girl, cheerleader, and I am working on getting all the information before I say yes to things.
Okay.
And it can be, so I guess that's my question. How on a daily basis do I practice thinking things through, especially when I'm talking to somebody, some opportunity, collaboration, a job? I get excited and I offer it up without hearing everything.
Oh, awesome. Okay. So is that historically you've been more of like, if you get excited, you leap?
Of anything. Okay. You know, I'm constantly meeting new people. I just opened up an event space in the Vibe Creative District in Virginia Beach. I'm also an artist. So I feel like all my hard work and growth over the past few years of finding out what career I want to be in has led me to this point.
Yeah.
And sometimes the yeses are good, sometimes they're not. And most of the nots, my boundaries are being taken advantage of just my enthusiasm and my kindness.
I love that. Yeah, that's amazing. Let me ask you a hard question. How much do you identify with any people-pleasing tendencies?
That is pretty high up on that radar.
Okay.
You know, I'm not out of that I would like to work my way.
Work on that. Cool. Okay, awesome. Yeah, because those are often related. Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much for sharing vulnerably and openly. I mean, that's really what it takes here for us to make massive momentum and shifts happen. So yeah, great question. This is quite a complex question, and I love complex questions because often life is like that.
Right.
And there are often ands that we get into that are sticking points, because it would be so easy if I could just be like, well, think things through every single time just like this, and when you've checked off the X, Y, and Z, then you'll be good, right? But unfortunately, fortunately, it doesn't really work like that. And that is because we are not pigeonholed in responses. And essentially that's getting at, we have free will to decide what we make things mean and what we want to do with anything that's presented in life. So there's a couple major aspects of what we need to develop, resources that we need to have in our back pocket in order to navigate those situations and be able to make the decisions that are actually right for us in that particular season of time. Because isn't that the rub? In any given moment, something could sound great, but it's not the time and not the right matchup at that time. Later on, a couple months, it pops out and it's perfect, right? So because of that, we need to know, is it now? Is it later? Is it never? Right? Where are we actually at with that? And so there's two big resources. There's more than that, but two big ones that I want to highlight here is the development and the honoring of your intuition compass, and the development and the honoring of the emotional compass. So that is, we have 4 bodies. All of us dealing with life and moving in the world are essentially navigating, experiencing all 4 of our bodies. We have our physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. Often the physical body and the mental body are ones that we are most well versed in. We know about symptoms, we know about exercise, we eat 3 times a day or whatever. So we're kind of aware of that. The mental body, we think things through, which is what you're talking about. And that's what we've been taught to do, right? So people are like, you're wrong if you take the leap, right? It's more of the, have you thought through it? Does it seem like a good idea? Does it make sense? All of those things. But then the other ones, the emotional and the spiritual, which is where I'm kind of alluding to, are often then very much underrepresented. Or people make them seem like 2 different things. If you use your intuition and your emotional compass, you can't also think things out. But I will argue that I think it's the layering of all 4 bodies and actually tuning into each one and being aware of what each one is telling you that will give you the greatest clarity. Fit for you in what season, or if things are not yet ready to pop out. Does that all make sense so far?
It does. And I've learned over the years, the more clear my message is with my what I offer for my services, or what is in the project scope, has helped. And so I've created those steps for both of my 2 businesses. However, I still face to face, I feel the energy. I'm an empath. So not only am we're covering people pleaser, or I'm also, I feel the
just
vibration.
sensitive, which is really handy. Honestly, you can get a lot of information and use it to your advantage.
Right.
Often it's actually more slowing down our internal experience so that we can do it. And that's why it makes the most sense to have frameworks that we can think through. Because what essentially I hear you saying is you're like, I have a pretty good awareness of what I'm looking for, what I want to create in the world. Then I get around other people and the energy of that sweeps me along and then interrupts my process for what I need to do to prove to myself that this is the best thing. And if I skip that and go along with the energy, then they're running the show and things that I don't want to happen as a result, right?
Yes.
Yep. So it's a matter of having a framework oftentimes to tune in, which slows down the process, right? Because for example, if you're meeting with someone, and this is a question for you, where do you feel the energy first? Does it register in your physical body and you feel excited, like your heart flutters and your hands get a little tingly? Or is it more emotions? Is it the excitement is an energy and the emotion of it is flowing through your body? How does it hit you first?
Well, definitely the dreaming part of I don't always feel like a spark.
But I mean, like when you're there and the energy gets you. So it's a thought? It's a thought that comes like you're getting.
And then I'm like, oh, I just think, oh, big thoughts and big dreams. And then I'm like caught up in the moment.
So does it not have any feeling associated with it? It's more just the thought of excitement, or do you feel excited in your body?
Oh, sorry. I got weird alerts. It depends on the situation, right? So sometimes it depends on who I'm talking to or what it is. But yes, there have been times when I've been like, whoa, everywhere.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Let's do it.
Yeah, this is great then, because oftentimes, how we do one thing is how we do everything is generally a statement that we like because it's very true across things. And so for most people, they actually have a very similar cadence of responses in their bodies when it happens. But because there are different situations bring out different expressions of it, we can get, without an awareness, it can feel haphazard and confusing. So for what I would like you to do, if you're up for it, or what I would do if I were in your shoes, is every single moment where that comes up next, I would go back and actually journal on it after and break it down. When they were talking, was it a thought that I had first that made me feel excited? And if it was a feeling, where did I feel that in my body? Like actually it's kind of like Monday morning quarterback playing back the video, but you're playing back the memory and saying, how do I perceive things in the world? And what this will do is essentially give you the play-by-play book of how your system likes communicating with you. Because they go in sequence, because we can't do anything about it all at once. So let me explain what I mean. Is that first, everything's useful. So the usefulness of you getting excited about something is essentially saying it's worth exploring. The trick is if it gets explored under the assumption that it's then needs to move forward just because it's getting explored, then that'll kind of be tricky because then you're kind of looped in. But often what happens for people, and maybe you'll relate, is that they have this sensation of excitement because they're vibing like a tuning fork with the other person. So it's like, okay, step number 1, check, I'm engaged.
Right.
2, I'm starting to get creative thoughts that follow. Okay, that's how my mind then goes. And then often feelings follow thoughts. So then if I think that expansive thought that makes me excited, does then my emotional body resonate as that? Now what happens then is that then you start getting competition, because as that is happening, they may also be kicking over the red flags and the behaviors that you want to set boundaries around. And you're starting to get an inkling that something is going on there with the boundaries, right? So you as an empath, if you're feeling, you feel all of it. So obviously you're also feeling the push and pull of, yes, but if I put myself in that position, that might not go well, right?
Yeah.
So then the reason it's so helpful to realize how it happens for you sequentially is because then you're like, okay, by the time I get to here and I am starting to feel the discrepancy of both being excited and they're starting to show me some red flags, how am I registering that? Because basically that is how you'll know that something is worth looking more into. Because then imagine, for what you asked me, imagine creating a checklist that you would have to vet through every single through it every single time. You probably can't get a checklist that's general enough to do that.
No.
Yeah. So at that point, this is where the checklist can start to form, but it's not that clear of a checklist. This is where you will insert the checklist at that point in the cycle, because then that's where I would be asking, okay, what if my emotional compass is picking up something negative? They do this. I have a feeling they're going to be really demanding, right? Then at that point, that's a really good question. What kind of demandingness will I allow, first of all?
Right.
And how do I want to preemptively set the tone as a leader so that they know from the very get-go that some things can be tolerated, and I'm clear on what that is, and these things will not be. And if that can't be worked out, then it's going to be a no. Okay?
Right.
So empathetically, you're always giving everybody a choice, because at that point, when we have that much clarity on, okay, this is how it's making me feel, and then asking, what am I available for? And therefore, what do I need to express to them that gets them to say, well, I can either do that or I can't, then we come to an agreement. So that's how essentially using the intuition and the emotional compasses drives conversations that are super duper authentic. Sometimes they feel kind of vulnerable, but at the end of the day, if it's a yes, it's a hell yes. You know, like everybody is on board because the rules are set, the excitement has been honored, right? You guys are going together, feeding off each other's energy, and it's gonna go well because you laid out the rules of the engagement, right? Whenever that is not done and it's just the engagement, basically what we're getting at is that it's an inauthentic relationship. Both parties have not actually agreed upon the rules, and as you march down the road together, that's where issues essentially start coming up. So that's like the really big overarching way that I would be assessing that and breaking down for me. And that does so many things. For one, you do end up getting a checklist for every single situation. It's just tailored to the checklist. And the second thing is you have skills to develop, because every single interaction then, because you'll catch the people pleasing and the overly empathetic and the trying to jump out of the boat to save them from the water. You'll catch all of those within this framework. And really all you're doing is checking into all four of the bodies and seeing where they're pointing. It's a lot easier to do it with 4 compasses than with one. With one, we all mess around. We're all like, oh, really? Is it pointing north? Maybe if I go like that, you know, like we'll doubt it. You get 4 stacked in a row, it starts to be much more clear. Now, can you get 50-50? Sure. But at that point, generally time and self-awareness will resolve that. Okay. So questions that you have now, we can dig deeper, or you can ask about anything that I've said so far, but questions that you have about that.
I made a list. Hold on. I try to do my homework.
I love it.
You know, I just think the people pleasing, and when you're creating businesses and working with people, that's the tricky thing, where I want everyone to feel welcome and comfortable.
Ooh,
but I know. See, I'm right there.
Actually, so tell me, what do you think the role of, what is good about not always keeping keeping everything hunky dory? Like, why would that be a good thing?
So let's just I'm a mom. I have 3 kids.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to say my people pleasing went downhill when I became a mom very quickly.
Yeah, it's hard.
And so I became a completely different person. And so they're older. My youngest is 7. So I've had a bunch of years, I'd say a good 4 solid years of healing and learning and growing with my children too. And keeping everybody happy. I mean, alive. It's just,
Yeah.
So now that, as you said, now in business, now I'm like swimming through it.
Yeah.
With keeping people alive. I don't know where I'm going with this, but basically the people pleasing is like such a problem, but then the kids and the breath.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, we act differently sometimes in different situations, which is part of the fragmentation. When we act authentically, we are the same pretty much all the time. So let me ask you again, what is the good part of not keeping the peace all the time? What's the actual pro of that? Like, why would anyone do
that people can figure out how to take care of themselves and keep their peace.
Anything else that you can think of?
Well, the authentic self, when they're being authentic, I'm being authentic.
Yeah.
And so that's super important for sure.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love that. And I totally agree, especially with that second part of authenticity. So I like talking about that from a place when we talk about personal power. So here's how I relate to that, because a lot of people need to hear this conversation, right? A lot of us make statements like we want to keep everyone happy, and in business the customer is always right? And so we've internalized it so much that people don't even pause after that sentence. They're like, yeah, you got to keep everybody happy, like that's how life works, right? And it's like, wait, hold on a second though, because if we allow ourselves to live from that place, we can really make ourselves crazy, because lo and behold, humans go run around all doing all sorts of stuff, and you can't seem to make them all happy, and they all want different things, and they're like, you'll just make yourself insane trying to accomplish that. And so what is it? So for me, it comes down to maintaining and keeping our personal power so that we can create powerfully in the world, right? The money that we want, the good clients, the good relationship with our kids and spouses, all of that is created from the power that we have. So anytime that we are splitting our power, we are then weaker in creating what we desire. And so how do we keep our personal power? Where a lot of times people are like, just think really positively, which makes sense then if it matches with keep everybody happy, because it's keep yourself happy and keep everybody happy is just all kind of the same thing. However, here's how I describe it. Basically, imagine all of your personal power in one big tall glass of water, right? In order to have an experience like this person makes me unhappy, you're basically taking that tall glass of water and pouring it into another smaller glass. But in order to tell yourself, but this still feels fine to me, I'm going to do it anyways, you pour more water into a third small glass. Now you basically have your power stretched out over. You're still you still got the original glass, but to have both kind of a opposite experiences of you do it and you're still fighting it are essentially splitting your power into 2 separate containers, and then each of those is individually less and less powerful than the original, right? Authenticity brings our power back to us because we both pour the water in the other glass, like, yes, this is happening, and I'm going to acknowledge that it's happening. You're basically just transferring all the water from one glass into another glass, and you have not lost any power.
You're frozen, or
I got a little laggy.
I was like,
but did you? I know, right? So essentially, that is the power of authenticity. And when we lie, which is, people don't like to describe people pleasing as lying or manipulating, except for that it is. that we bring in, when we apply authenticity to it, we just completely sidestep that whole problem. We don't have to worry about how are we creating, do I need to sit around and visualize more or manifest better or say these affirmations or do these things. You're just whole wherever you are. And here's the kicker, and that here's the thing that people don't realize could be so much easier about life, is that if we just are where we are and we're honest about where we are and we share that, we keep the most amount of our power and we can just take off like a rocket. And people look around and be like, how are you making this look so easy? But that's essentially how, when all four of our bodies are unified in one direction and we've checked in with awareness, like you were saying, for all of them, and now they're all in agreement, and we talk to the other person and find agreement there, then generally speaking, we will create situations that work for both people, and both people who are in their power together will create something really beautiful, instead of one person who's split and they're chasing around the other person, just pouring their water into more and more and more cups. And that's how, essentially, whenever you tune in with yourself and you're like, I'm frazzled, I'm discombobulated, I have no idea what I'm doing, I'm running around with the chicken with my head cut off. That's essentially, I just kind of, when I have that feeling, I just stop and I say, okay, how do I unify all of these glasses back in? And that's usually remembering why I'm here, who I am, and what I'm doing here, right? Like, just kind of big picture reminder, and then starting again. And I may do this 37 times in one day because it's one of those days, but authentically, I am always with myself. And so, that kind of day it doesn't detract, it actually makes it more powerful.
Oh, definitely. And when that happens, I always have to like go back to my house and clean up my room.
Yeah,
like that's it's like I like just need to go, and like maybe my room's a mess, and it always.
Yeah, perfect. What else? Do you have anything else that you can think of to do? What if you're out and about? Because sometimes it's good to be like, here's what works for me in this setting, and then be like, how do I cross apply it to others? So like, how can you find that same feeling when you're not at home? What does that look like? Or let's say you're trapped in a board meeting and you can't actually get up. What would you do in your head or in your emotional body, like things like that?
I think just what's really helped is just stopping and just taking some breaths and just not, if some conversation's going on, I think just stopping and breathing is really helpful. Taking that, we call it, with the jets going overhead, we call it the Virginia Beach, moment of silence, but it's about 2 minutes, and you just kind of just stopping helps most of the time. Of just, as you said, I take my shoes off a lot. I feel like being grounded helps as well. Perfect. So yeah,
I love that. And I like how you have at home when you're cleaning, it's your physical body's there, your mental body, seeing the clutter go away, your emotions are going with that. Then taking the silence, same thing. You're quieting the mental body, quieting the physical body, letting the emotional waters get more calm, and then starting again. I love that plan. That's the kind of thing that I mean. Like, those things are more what create success in people's lives, but they seem so insignificant. Like, it would be awesome if rainbows came down, there was sparkles or whatever, just to let you know. But honestly, it's that pause that is more than a pause, right? We just broke it down by, it's a complex thing happening in all four bodies that you have to live in and experience and have awareness around. And so that kind of thing sounds like not really that much, in reality is massive. And as long as someone actually applies it, they could probably get through pretty much all situations in life. If I access the deeper parts of myself, I'm always better off. So I love that plan. For me, that I also do kind of find pockets of silence in my mind. It doesn't matter what's going around me. I don't know, screaming kids, whatever. But essentially finding mental quiet, and as much as I can stop my thoughts. And the way that I do that best for whatever reason, if I close my eyes, I can generally concentrate on one spot and it looks like a little light ahead. I'm probably making it up, right? Or whatever. But I basically just repeat one spot or one point over and over in my head as I concentrate on that one spot. No matter whether I'm pissed or have lots of thoughts floating, for the most part, that seems to work for me. Now, you'll have to play around, all of you listening. We all have to find our things that work, but it's helpful to hear other people's little techniques like that because then you can just try it, play around with it, and see if you like it or something like it. Yeah. And of course, I would be, not Alex if I didn't include parasympathetic. Basically, for you, Tessa, anytime that the energy takes you, then I would be checking in with my body. Is there a way for me to ensure that I'm calm in my physical body so that I'm clear that this is really excitement and not driven by, ooh, I want to be excited so that you are excited so that you like me. Kind of vibe, just bringing it back to center. And then it's a little bit more clear to tell what the emotional body is actually up to. Yeah? Okay, cool. Was this helpful?
Yeah. Okay. I was a little nervous.
Yeah, no, totally fine. Thank you so much for
especially going live. I kept watching, I know, to see if anyone I knew got on here. A few people did, but I was like,
I love that. Oh, I love it so much. No, thank you so much for doing it. This is the kind of thing that'll really, it's such good practice of being the leader, right? You're like, I feel my inner child having a little bit of a problem. I feel the fear in my emotional body, but I know what I have my mindset towards. I know what I'm creating in this world. And because I decided, we are going. So kudos to you. Thank you so, so much for joining us. Are you going to be with us tomorrow for the money call?
Depends on if I'm driving a lacrosse practice. Yes.
Oh, got it. Yeah. Well, cool. We'd love to see you there. If not, no worries. For everybody, there's always a replay getting sent out. So if you go to that zestyginger.com/coachesconnect that I pinned down below, then you'll get to see that.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much, Tessa.
All right. Bye.
All right. Bye. Bye.
Thanks for coming out to hang with us on the podcast. It is our goal to transform the way women are treated in healthcare. And we need your help. We need your help to get the word out. We have a lofty goal of 1 million downloads. And we know that as this podcast grows, we're going to be able to reach more women, get more amazing speakers for you, and bring the most cutting-edge information.
If you found these podcasts helpful, please take a moment to text 5 women you know the link to the series. We appreciate your help so much. Can't wait to see you next time.